Rachel V, and I am back again. Hello and welcome to my latest video. So today is going to be the first day in another series that I'm doing. I know I'm starting all these series on my channel. If you want to go back and look at my other series, I will go ahead and put a card right here so you can go ahead and click on that. Otherwise, for my first couple of weeks of videos, on Mondays I'm going to be doing little snippets into my life and who I am and kind of telling you my story, seeing if you can relate, if you want to know more about me, and kind of, you know, explain where I come from, my life, what I've experienced, and that kind of things. I know some people think these kind of videos are really boring, but you know, I just thought I do share some advice and I do share some opinions. I just wanted you to have some kind of context and background as to why I am the way that I am. So if you want to tune into these videos, make sure you go ahead and click the subscribe button. I upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so make sure you do go ahead and hit that notification bell so that you know when I do upload, since I do not upload every day. If you are interested in this series, sit back, hold on, it's going to be a wild ride, and we are going to start with the beginning of my life and go from there. I was born in Dallas, Texas. My parents actually were missionaries for quite a few years before I was born, so obviously I was raised Christian. You know, I was dedicated at a church and all that stuff. For those of you that don't know what dedicated means, it's a lot of denominations of Christianity that are not Catholic do not believe in baby baptisms. So a dedication is a way for the parents to express to their friends, their family, their congregation, and their God that they are intending to raise their child in a Christian way without baptizing them, because a lot of Christians think that baptism is a choice that you make. My parents actually lived in Ethiopia and Kenya for a while, so I actually was almost born in Ethiopia. My grandpa on my mom's side actually passed away shortly before I was born, so they were in the States for his funeral, and they actually ended up not going back because my mom ended up becoming pregnant with me, so they ended up staying in the States, and I was born in Texas, and that is where my story really begins. We lived there up until I was about 5 years old. When I was 4 years old, my brother was born. So my brother is 4 years younger than me, and he's great, a lovely person. He's old now. He's like 16. It's absolutely insane, and I cannot believe it. To me, he'll always be that little baby. But so he was born when I was 4. When I was 5, my parents decided to get separated, and my mother, my brother, and I all moved up to Minnesota, where my mom's family is. So I have lived in Minnesota since I was 5 or 6 years old. Eventually, my mom and dad did decide to get divorced. So parents have been divorced since I was 6. My father was a part of my life up until I was about 9, and after that he was really spotty up until I was about 12, and then I didn't really see him up until I was, you know, around 18. That's its own story, which I will share at a different time. But so we moved up to Minnesota, and I started kindergarten, where I met my absolute best friend in the world. And she and I were friends up until I think like 8th grade, I want to say. Well, I was always kind of the fat kid, never super popular, you know, really, really nice. After people would get to know me, they were like, oh, like, she's so sweet and she's so amazing. And, you know, no one really cared for me until they got to know me. So I was never very popular, never very liked, I guess. I wasn't ever disliked, but I was not very popular. So as a kid, with my parents getting divorced and moving and starting kindergarten all within 1 year, it was very hard for me, and it really led to me developing a lot of anxiety that I do have now. I've been very, very anxious ever since I was a kid. I used to be up all night, almost every single night, throwing up and just sick all the time and crying and just scared constantly. And that's where a lot of my anxiety comes from. All through school, I really only had, you know, like one friend. I maybe met a couple of people here and there, but I was never very close with anyone besides this one girl. She was kind of flaky, kind of like ditched me for other people like 3 or 4 times, like before 5th grade, like stuff like that, where it was just kind of sketchy and just kind of, you know, I only put up with it because I didn't have anybody else to be friends with. So when I was in 3rd grade, my dad moved to California. So he was, you know, pretty regularly in my life. I would stay over at his house every other weekend. But when I was 9, he moved to California. After that, I didn't really see too much of him. That's really the last time I really truly consider him being in my life. That was very difficult for me. That girl that I had mentioned before actually ditched me for one of the more popular girls, and they absolutely hated me. I don't remember why, but their whole group just hated me. So in 3rd grade, I had literally no friends. friends? No friends. I had a crush on this one guy who hated me because I was fat, and that was when I really started getting bullied for being fat. And that's, you know, kind of when I started getting really self-conscious about, you know, what I looked like. And up until then, I really hadn't ever noticed before. I, you know, was just a normal kid. I would run around and play and have a good time and whatever. But after that is when I really started to realize that I was the fat kid. And after that, you know, I started using humor kind of as a defense. Oh yeah, it'll take me 3 hours because I'm so fat and stuff like that. Because, you know, you get made fun of, and if you don't make the jokes first, somebody else is gonna make them. And I know that's what a lot of people do say, and a lot of people experience that, and that was my experience as well. So in 4th grade, I made friends with some really raucous boys, and they didn't like want to play with me because I was a girl, and they were like, ew, girls are gross, and I was like, I have no other friends and you're the only people that talk to me, but they also constantly made fun of me about being fat. You know, that was really difficult. And so after that, I did actually meet another girl who I became really close with, and we were close with for a very long time. She, to this day, is still one of the people I could consider one of my best friends in my entire life. Like, she was always so supportive and so nice. We spent so much time at her house. She was always just so great. And, you know, she really helped me a lot with, like, my body image and stuff like that. When I was friends with her, I really did feel a lot more comfortable with who I was. So, you know, flash forward to middle school, I was still super awkward all the time, but I decided that I was not going to be weird anymore and that I was going to make friends. So I just decided to not be shy anymore and just was very outgoing, made a ton of friends. I was in theater my whole life, like from when I was 7, like first grade, so like 6 or 7, up until now. I've always been, you know, really into singing and dancing and acting and all that fun stuff. So once I was in middle school, a yearly musical production, so I started doing that. I had a solo in the first one that I was ever in. The second one, I had not a large part, but a significant speaking role. As well as a song with my scene partner. So then in 8th grade, everything kind of started going downhill. All of my friends had actually left and went to different schools, so I only had my friends that I had become friends with in 6th or 7th grade, who turned out to not be the best friends. People were spreading a lot of rumors about me and saying a lot of really, really nasty things, and, you know, it really, it was not a good time for me. So, but after that, I actually decided to go into online school, and I started really getting into singing and dancing and acting. I actually worked with Stages Theater Company and did a lot of official training there, as well as I took piano lessons, I took voice lessons, I was in dance, and I did an absolute just ton of stuff around this time of my life. You know, I also started getting really, really involved in my church. I joined the worship band. We had a Christian karate sort of thing. And so I was involved in that. I was involved in small group. I went to church every Sunday, and that was really my my community. And I really do look back at those times fondly. I was questioning a lot of stuff, and I did have a lot of issues, you know, personally, spiritually, and with a lot of the stuff that I've experienced. I look back at that as one of the best times in my life, because I really was surrounded by a lot of really good and strong and kind people. And I really do think they made a very lasting impression on my life. So in high school, actually I was in 9th grade. So in my freshman year of high school, I was in online school, and this is gonna sound super old-fashioned, but me and my friends actually had like a group chat, like an IM chat on this like random site, and it was like instant messaging. Like, it wasn't like a group chat like with an app. It was like literally you would go onto the site, like to the chat room name, and type in your name and choose the color of your font and join the chat room. And like, we had a password, so like not anybody could get into it, but it was like, it makes me feel old because people don't do that anymore. So, you know, we had that, and that was how I had most of my like social interaction outside of my church stuff. And actually I met Hunter, who is my current boyfriend, and we actually dated for a little while and then ended up breaking up, and we were best friends all through high school. And we ended up getting back together in my junior year, I think. Maybe I was a senior. No, I must have been in my junior year of high school. So, so if you have a high school sweetheart and you broke up, it might not be too late because it worked out for me. So anyways, when I was 16, I was having a lot of issues with my mom and with my living situation. I felt that I had a job and I was in college, I was taking college classes and I was doing all this stuff, and I really felt that I should be allowed to live my life as an adult if I had all of this responsibility of being an adult. And my mom agreed, and she basically said, okay, fine, if you're gonna be an adult, then pay rent. So I did, and I really don't think she was expecting it to like work out, but I did. I paid rent, and then I ended up, you know, spending a lot of time with Hunter at his house because at this point he was 18, so he had already moved out. And so I actually ended up moving out when I was 17, which is not a great idea. Please don't do that, ever. It's awful. Wait until you're 18, and before you move out, please save up money because it's absolutely terrible. I moved out when I was 17, and I moved into, Hunter had moved out when he was 18, and he was actually living with a roommate, and so I actually moved in with them. We lived there for like 3 or 4 months, and then she like snapped and went absolutely insane and kicked us out with 3 days notice for little to no reason. So we actually ended up staying in a hotel, and we were actually homeless for like probably 4 or 5 months. And this hotel was like about 3 miles out of town. So we would walk like an hour and a half to 2 hours every single day, like to go to work. And at the time I was working at 2 jobs. So I worked at a restaurant, and I was actually a hostess because I was only 17. You can't waitress till you're 18. So I was actually a hostess at a restaurant, and I was doing that full time. So I worked usually like 5 or 6 days a week. So I was working about 40 hours. And then I also, at the same restaurant, was doing cleaning in the morning. So I would get there 2 hours before they opened at, you know, 8:30 or 9. And I would clean the whole place. I would clean the bathrooms. I would scrub all the floors. I would vacuum all the carpets. I would wash all the tables. I would basically get it all set up for that morning. So I was doing that. So I would leave. It took us 2 hours to walk, right? So I would leave at about usually like 6 or 7 in the morning. And I would walk to the restaurant, and I would clean the restaurant for 2 hours because we opened at 11, so I was done by 11. And then I actually also had a job where I'm currently working now. So this is what I started. I was part-time there, and I would work 11 to 3 there, and then I would go straight to the restaurant again, and then I would work usually like 3:30 or 4 until like 11 or 12 at night. I'm working, you know, pretty much straight from 9 a.m. until almost midnight. And keep in mind, it took us 2 hours to walk there, so I wasn't at the hotel. Like, I was usually gone from about 6 in the morning until about 2 in the morning. So I was really only sleeping for maybe like 2 or 3 hours a night. And even though I was, you know, working 2 jobs, we were really barely scraping by at this point. You know, Hunter was working full-time. I was working 2 full-time jobs. And we were barely scraping by because, you know, we're paying for this hotel. It's like $85 a night or something, and that's absolutely ridiculous. Like, when you do the math, $2,000 a month. Keep in mind, currently for a 2-bedroom apartment, I pay less than $1,000. And so we were paying like 2.5 times that to stay in this hotel. So that was like hands down the worst time in my entire life. Like, we were homeless, and I was tired all the time, and I was walking everywhere, and, you know, we really felt like we didn't have anywhere to turn. So that was awful. You know, one night we actually were completely out of money, and so we ended up sleeping outside in like October in Minnesota. So that was absolutely terrible. And, you know, that was some of the worst times of both his and my life. Like, we fought a lot. I was really depressed. He was really depressed. And it was very, very difficult. And, you know, now looking back, I really do think it was, you know, a very formative moment of our relationship. And now, you know, we got through that, so we can get through anything. Nothing really phases us anymore. But that was a really very difficult time, and I'm glad that we did make it through. In like November, we ended up getting our first apartment, and we have now lived there for almost 3 years. It's been a crazy long ride, but, you know, we've made it, and we've done a lot of really crazy stuff. And, you know, I maybe didn't make the best decisions. I did not make the best decisions, and I didn't make the wisest decisions. And, you know, it was hard, and I had to deal with the outcome of, you know, those choices and those decisions. And, you know, I really think that's what it boils down to. You know, if you're gonna make decisions, you have to be ready to deal with the consequences. You know, and a lot of people, especially, you know, younger people that are like 17, 18, they'll want to be free and like move out or whatever. Stuff gets hard, and they and they can't do it and they go back home. And, you know, if you're going to make a decision like that, you really have to decide to either stick with it or, you know, do it later. And I'm really glad that I did stick with it. I'm very happy with my life right now. I'm very content. I love my friends. I love Hunter. I love how my life has turned out. I think my coworkers are great. I feel like I'm in a really good place in my life. And even through all of the hard stuff, I really do feel like I have grown as a person and come into my own. So that's kind of my whole life story. If you want to hear other stories from my life, let me know. I have, you know, I'm going to be continuing this series for a while, so I will take different things that I remember, tell some stories, tell some weird stories, fun stories. You know, I might talk about like prom or, you know, graduating or my first kiss or fun stuff like that. So that's about it for this video. So if you want to hear more, as always, you know, comment down below, tell me what stories you want to hear. If you want to hear more of these, again, I know I said this at the beginning, but make sure you go ahead and subscribe and ring that notification bell because I do not upload every day. So you want to make sure that you are getting the notifications for when I do post videos. So I post Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Mondays are going to be my About Me series. So make sure you keep an eye out for that if you enjoyed this video. So if you did enjoy it, make sure you like it because I just love shouting into the void and hoping that someone hears me. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you live your life with love and peace and happiness and do everything you can to be your true selves. So I hope you all have a wonderful night and I will see you on Wednesday.